Elemental. The term elemental. It is an interesting concept because it suggests something that can be coerced or harnessed, but never subverted. And if something is truly elemental and it reaches escape velocity, it cannot be denied. That is sort of what you are looking at when you examine the term elemental in its totality. Something that can be coerced or harnessed, but never subverted. You can't get sub-elemental, and it cannot be denied if it grows powerful enough. Think of the atomic bomb, for example. You're not denying that type of explosion. That is so it possibly ironically to this conversation, an atomic blast happens when an element is split. Welcome to Strip Cover Lit, where we squeeze the bigger picture out of literature. I'm Adrian Fort, and we are here for another poetry discussion, which will take place in two separate playlists here on the channel. Number one being the poetry discussion playlist, now over 700 videos strong, and number two being the Emily Dickinson playlist, a playlist of videos dedicated to the greatest poet that ever was. The poem in question today is "You Cannot Put a Fire Out," and it reads as such. You cannot put a fire out. A thing that can ignite can go itself without a fan upon the slowest night. You cannot fold a flood and put it in a drawer, because the winds would find it out and tell your cedar floor. Fire, so elemental. Fire, elemental. Water, represented here by flood, elemental. Wind is elemental, but I would suggest that it is a bit player here. It is a sort of a sidebar to the water element. Fire, today, you cannot put a fire out, a thing that can ignite. That, today, we sort of associate with whatever a person wants to do. Their fire, what burns inside of them. It's sort of a motivational thing, right? That's the way we conceptualize it when we put fire into the human element. Someone who is fiery is motivated. They're not lazy. We often, by the same sort of token, associate flooding with emotionality. You've heard the term flooded with feelings, flooded with emotions, tears flooding their eyes. You associate water flooding with emotion. So we have motivation and emotion. Those are sort of the way that these things are conceptualized today. But let's take a step back from these associations. Let's look at these things, even symbolically, as elemental. We all have elemental components of our disposition. Some of us are anxious people, very anxious people. That is an element core to our disposition. Some of us are angry people. That fire is alive within us. That is a very core part of our personage. It is a bit of our being that we cannot seemingly escape. It is elemental to us. It cannot be subverted. You're an angry person. You can't subvert it. You can, right? But we see it as core to the person that is. It can be harnessed. It can be coerced. You're an angry person. You can take that anger and put it into your work. And if it reaches escape velocity, things get pretty bad pretty quick. The same thing is true with anxiety. You are an anxious person. You can turn that anxious energy into constantly doing something. You have to focus it to do that. You have to coerce it. You have to harness it. But if anxiety takes you over completely, things go very bad, very fast. What about other things? A sense of worthlessness. If you find yourself feeling worthless, You can harness that, you can coerce that, you can turn it into always trying to accomplish things. Other people might accept you if you accomplish things. It weaponizes that bit of your personality. It's a rough thing to see, but it's doable. And if a sense of worthlessness takes you over completely, things go very bad very fast. What about a sense of grandeur, for example? That can be used to your advantage. You have a sense of grandeur. I do not belong doing this thing, but in order to do the other things, the things that grand people do, you got to get there. But if you let that sense of grandeur stop you from accomplishing, you believe that your grandeur means you don't have to work to get those places, it goes, again, very bad, very fast. All of those things can turn on you and ruin everything, ruin your whole life. The same is true with emotions, right? So a lot of those things I just named can be transcribed into the world of emotion. So it is your fire or it is your water. It is your fire or your flood. Both of those things, whatever you consider any of those things, they can ruin you. So let's talk about, there's a weird detail in this poem. You get to the end of the poem and there's a weird detail. Oftentimes with Emily Dickinson, there's a weird something somewhere in the poem. Here it happens at the end. Cedar floor. She's talking about the grandiose of fire that cannot be contained. She's talking about the grandiose of a flood. Where in the world do we get to a cedar floor? Why that detail? So a cedar floor, what do you usually use for floors? Hardwood. If you're building a house, you use hardwood for the floor most often. Why? Because it's a floor, it's going to be heavily trafficked. People are going to be walking on it, probably sliding things across it, etc. Cedar is used for flooring, but usually it's used in lower traffic places. Probably what we're talking about here with the context of this poem is a bedroom. It can be used for flooring in a bedroom, a low traffic place. It's not a hallway that you might be going down several times a day. You leave your bedroom, you go back to your bedroom. You're not probably doing calisthenics in your bedroom, or if you are, it's on your bed. The idea of the cedar floor here is a weird detail, but it's not completely out of place. Your drawers are probably in your bedroom. And it's not a hardwood, but it's cedar. It's good against bugs and it's good against rot. So there are perks to the cedar floor. But again, it's not a hardwood. You don't want it in a high traffic spot. I think that this is a comment here on using your elements to reach your goals, but acknowledge your own frailty or those elements will destroy you. You want that drawer in your bedroom. If you try to put the flood in the low traffic place, you're going to ruin your foundation. These things that take you over, the fire, the flooding, the motivation, the emotions, if you put them someplace that is too frail, they will destroy your very footing. I think that is what is being communicated here, and it makes sense. If you find yourself being an angry person or an anxious person, you don't want that in a high traffic spot. And you want to use it. You want to channel that. But do you want to try and bottle it up, put it in a drawer? That's going to ruin the drawers. Then it'll ruin your floors. Then you got no place to be. So you have to, I think what the commentary here is, you have to channel these things. You have to coerce and harness these things. This anger, this anxiety, this sense of worthlessness, this sense of grandeur. Take those things, what's the old saying? Um, don't kill your demons, but always keep them on a leash. Something like that. So anyway, that is what I have for this poetry discussion. If you like or appreciate what it is that I do here, hitting the like button helps me out because it tells YouTube to share this video with other literature lovers. If you find yourself here by chance but not design, literature is the only thing I talk about on this channel, dropping multiple videos every single week. There's poetry every Monday, and as always, I hope to have you back for the next one.